Welcome back to Movie Reel. I am Samantha Tomlinson.
And I'm Kevin Tracy. Welcome back, everybody. I hope you enjoyed our last episode.
That was a fun episode.
Yeah,
Lost Boys is a fun movie, and I'm really mad that it took me this long to watch it. I don't know what my excuse was.
yeah.
Like,
Although,
I don't know.
yeah, I know we put this in like a brief kind of like note for that episode, but literally the day after we had finished editing that video, we had received word that the director of that movie, Joel Schumacher, had passed away. So that was very unfortunate timing. We are very sad to hear of his loss. He was a really great director, as you can tell by our praise of that movie. So it was just a real shock that after we had just talked about his one of it, like
The
personally, like
day after.
yeah, the
Like, the
day
day after we recorded.
yeah, the day after we had finished recording and editing that, we found out that he had passed away after talking about my favorite movie that he has done. It it was kind
Wait,
of a
is
weird thing.
Is Batman your favorite movie that he's done?
No, Lost Boys.
Oh, okay. I
Yeah.
don't know.
No,
We mentioned Batman. Yeah.
No, Batman and Robin is not my favorite movie of Joel Schumacher.
I don't know. I don't know your taste. See, that's not true. I do know your taste, but I don't know. Yeah, that was just very ironic timing. So that's why I made sure we made note of it in our info when we released the episode. That's unfortunate. He was old. He clearly had a very long career and a long life, and yeah, he was very
Dedicated fan base.
He was really talented. Yeah.
He will be missed, and it was just a kind of a weird shock that after we didn't even really talk about him in great length. We only kind of talked about him directly for a couple minutes in our episode, but it was just
Yeah.
it was really weird that after we had done that episode and finalized everything, he had passed away, which was very unexpected, as you can tell, because it just seemed very ill timed to do that episode, or to
Yeah.
it was really weird, and we're very sorry for his to hear about his loss, and we hope that our episode does kind of pay homage to, in my opinion, his some of his best work.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed.
So yeah, moving on. What movie are we doing today, Sam?
We watched the Goonies.
Yeah, we did.
And this is another one of those really just perfectly summer movies. That's the thing that's weird is when we had said we're gonna do cover summer movies, it's just I don't know how to explain it. There are just certain movies that are perfect for the summer. It's just whether it's the content or I don't know how to explain it. There's just I feel like there's all these movies that we're gonna talk about that we love that I just like The Mummy, for example. That's a movie. It's not that I can't watch it at any point in the year. I could. I just only seem to watch it during the summer.
Yeah, no, that was definitely a movie that back when my mom had her van and had a DVD player in it, and we would take road trips in it, we would
Oh
always
yeah.
pack The Mummy and The Mummy Returns, and we would just watch that all the time on road trips. And chances are we would only go to Lake Tahoe to visit our
Yeah.
grandparents, so it was only a 2 or 3 hour drive. So it's all right, we're gonna watch a movie in a house. This is fine.
Yeah.
We would watch The Mummy, and then half The Mummy Returns, and then on the way back we would
Finish
watch
it.
we would watch The Mummy Returns, and then half of The Mummy we would flip flop it.
Oh.
It made no sense, but we were kids and we didn't
Yeah,
care.
yeah.
It's we're going to hang out at Lake Tahoe with our grandparents. Is that's our vacation.
Yeah. The Goonies. So I mentioned this last week. The Boardwalk, the Boardwalk usually plays movies through, I don't know if it's just throughout the whole summer or just during 1 month. I've actually never done one of these. I've been to the Boardwalk when it's happening, just I would rather go on the rides
It,
than,
it, it was
you
purely
know.
coincidental on your part.
Yes, it was.
Okay.
It was never. And now I kind of want to do it, but of course. But yeah, like Lost Boys, of course they did, and Goonies was like another one. And this this must be such a fun movie to see with an audience like that. Like if it's ever re-released, or if I really want to watch it with a group of
Yeah.
people.
Well,
Like
I know that because they filmed this in Oregon or Washington. I honestly can't remember.
it. I mean, the setting is Astoria, Oregon, which is a real place.
Okay, yeah, okay. So yeah, in I couldn't remember specifically where. I just remember that it's uh a bit north of us in California.
Yeah, I wasn't in the very beginning. I wasn't quite sure where it was set, and yeah, so yeah, it was shot in Cannon Beach, Oregon, and Astoria, Oregon.
Yeah.
Uh, but once I saw like the ocean and like the rock formations, I'm like, this is Oregon, and then I'm like, oh yeah, there was a sign that said Astoria,
Yeah.
Oregon.
Yeah,
Um,
I honestly can remember, but I do know that in the actual town they do have like every year, like almost like on
June
the anniversary.
7th.
Yeah, on
Yes.
the anniversary of the movie, they have like this whole like event where they play the movie on the beach. They have people just kind of show up on kind of like the various like locations where they film, like on the beach, the Fratelli's kind of shack that I don't even know if that's still
Yeah.
there, but just kind of
The
meander
site
through
of
the
it
town
stays
and
there.
just
Yeah.
the whole thing's just kind of a almost like a spectacle type sport. It's just really fun event that I would absolutely love to do that because I know they do a similar
Yeah.
thing for the movie The Warriors over on Coney Island, which that is a movie that I would absolutely love to do for this episode. Um,
Or this show podcast.
yeah, yeah, just for a
Yeah.
future episode for the
Yeah.
podcast.
Yeah.
Have you seen that movie, The Warriors?
I have not.
Okay,
Who's in
well,
it?
this is gonna be a fun. That will be a fun episode then. Yeah, that movie is just very iconic, but I gotta say this one is way more iconic. So I absolutely love this. This is a fantastic Steven Spielberg movie, even though his name's attached to it, even though he is not the director. He was one of the writers.
Producer and one of the writers. It was him and Chris Columbus. And when it
Yeah,
said on screen Chris Columbus, I'm like, of course. Like, of course.
yeah.
Like, again, we're like the first few minutes of the movie, and I'm like, yep, it's a Chris Columbus movie.
Yeah, well, it's funny because they're attached to the movie, but neither of them are the director. The director is actually Richard Donner, um,
Yeah.
which is kind of a shame because he kind of gets drowned out by Christopher Columbus and Steven Spielberg. Most people assume that
Yeah.
either Steven Spielberg directed this or Christopher Columbus directed this. They had no directorial like part in this. They were producers and writers. They were purely pre-production and
Yeah.
yeah,
It's kind of
yeah.
it's kind of like how like Nightmare Before Christmas, we all think of it as Tim Burton, and he technically, I gotta double check. I think he wrote it. He didn't direct it, but he gets way more. I mean, he gets way more. Not that writing is a major endeavor. You should
Yeah,
get credit for it. That's not what we're saying. It's just the director. It's kind of funny when
it
the
gets lost in
director,
translation.
one or the other gets more fame
Yeah,
from it.
like in the Back to the Future trilogy, most people think that Steven Spielberg did that. It's like no, he produced it. He was a part of it, but he didn't direct it. That was Robert Zemeckis, and
Yeah,
a lot of people seem to forget that. Um, because pretty much whenever Steven Spielberg's name is attached to literally
anything.
anything,
Yeah,
people just automatically assume it's like, oh, he was the director. It's like not necessarily. He
he's
he
attached to so many movies.
he
Like,
is it
yeah.
his filmography page is
I just want
just
to check because it must be
it
so
is
long.
it
Like,
is so long. It is so long.
it's
Uh,
in
it,
terms of
yeah. Just in
I
terms of
gotta
like
read.
him directing, I mean,
He has over 1,000 things that he's connected to.
yeah, it
Just connected
is,
to. He's produced over almost 200 times. He's directed about 60 times. He's written like 24. Like, yeah, like, but when he's produced, he's it kind of just, oh, it's a Spielberg movie,
Yeah,
which technically,
everyone automatically assumes that he directed it.
I mean, it's because that's the thing that's funny is though it's just because technically in a film it's a director's medium because the director can kind of, I mean, I know producers do have some kind of a vote and that's why certain movies end up the way they do, TV as well, but typically a director can kind of do whatever they want and make whatever changes that they want. So it's funny when the writer is the one that's getting more fame from a project
Yeah.
because the director could have, I mean, who knows? But I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if Spielberg and or Chris Columbus were on set ever.
Oh, absolutely. Steven
Yeah.
Spielberg just always seems like the kind of guy who stays on top of a production, even though it's not necessarily within his role to do so. And Steven
Yeah.
Spielberg, he's the kind of guy who has a lot of weight behind his career that I feel like going against like what he wrote in the script would be just career suicide. It's
Mm,
like oh, it's like oh, I didn't like this character, so I completely changed him or wrote him out. It's like
yeah.
no, don't do that.
Yeah. And I know like I don't know which one or maybe it's just the newer ones, but for like Jurassic Park, I think it's the Jurassic World movies. He isn't the
Yeah,
director, but he is still very much like involved. Like he's on set. He's not just the executive producer. He's like
yeah.
actually still doing
Well,
stuff.
he doesn't have, as far as I know, I don't think he has like as big, like I know he doesn't have like as big as a role as he did in the first three, and I honestly don't know
Yeah.
how big of a role he had in the third one. It's been a really long time since I've seen The Lost World and Jurassic Park 3. Um,
Hmm.
the first one is absolutely my favorite. That's like one of my all-time favorite
The first
movies.
one's really really great. The second one, I don't know. I didn't. The second and the third, I didn't hate. They were not as all anywhere close to as good as the first one. Uh, but the third one, the thing is, there were a lot of things about it that I actually really liked. It was just weird because the whole, I mean, we're getting off topic, but like the
Yeah.
whole
Oh
thing
yeah.
about Jurassic Park is that it's not like an adventure movie where, oh, it's not like The Mummy where, oh, Emotep's back, we gotta go stop him again, or Harry Potter constantly is trying to vanquish Voldemort. Like they don't have to go back to the island.
Yeah, it's purely a survival type situation,
Yeah.
just in a very unique extreme circumstance. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I would have to agree with you on that. There is a very minimal driving force that gets them to the island, and then the rest of it is just them trying to make their way out of it. There's no like MacGuffin that they have to try to get to stop the dinosaurs or uh, stop some bad guy who's trying to really. There's nothing like attached to them other than we need to get out of here to live. There's no like antagonistic
That's
force that's like
yeah, and
that's trying to kill them other than just the dinosaurs, and they're not malicious. They're just hunting their animals.
yeah, yeah, exactly. It's just like for example, they're apparently they are going to make a second Goonies. And that is a movie that I can totally see why all of these, I mean, now adults would reconvene and wanted, because they were friends. Like that's the force, that's the connection that pulls them all together. Uh,
Yeah,
like Jurassic Park, yeah, like to be, there needed to be more after what there needed to be something that happened after, obviously, with what happened, but it didn't have to be those characters because why would they ever want to go back? And that's kind of and I feel like as the like writers directors they're trying to be like, yeah, how do we get these people to go and do this again?
exactly.
So we're veering too much Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
We could just
So
talk about this
so
all day. That's why I
I
pulled it
yeah.
back to Goonies, which I thought that's cool. They're making a sequel, and that would be so much fun because
I this is the first I'm hearing of that. I heard
I
that
yeah.
in a rumor mill, but I didn't think that was like confirmed.
Apparently, yeah, I mean it's on IMDb. It said like it popped up when I was like looking on IMDb on Goonies, and it said like, yeah, Sean Astin said that they were making another one. Um,
Huh.
so it's I think most of them are set to return except Jeff Cohen, who was Chunk. But I don't
Yeah,
know. Yeah,
that was his only movie that he ever did, as far as I know.
I I love Chunk. I thought he was adorable, and I all of them were great. Like I can't. So the movie kind of starts off with this. It's kind of like okay. It's kind of like that Stranger Things thing. Like, and I mentioned this last week.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
There is something way more uh endearing about a bunch of kids being on some kind of crazy adventure than when it's teenagers. And because when they're kids, it's like they're playing a game, like they've been prepping for this kind of thing, and they have the organizational skills. Like I thought it was just so like when they're like halfway through the tunnels and uh Mikey, Sean Astin's character is like, pee break? Who needs to pee? Like, it's just such an adult, it's such a like a child thing to think that way. Like, because
Yeah.
as kids, you may not know it, kids do like structure and they do like routine, and so or like Home Alone, how he's like every day would go grocery shopping and do this. Like, you're gonna still do the things that
That you
are
need to do.
familiar. Yes.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't know. It was very well casted.
Yeah.
It was a
Um,
solid cast for the Goonies.
and I actually really like how they introduced the characters in the beginning of this movie. So I'm just gonna kind of jump right into the
Yeah,
beginning of this. So this movie starts off with um, in the middle of a prison cell, and we see this random prisoner has apparently hung himself, and one of the officers is like investigating, and he's like reading the suicide notes, like, "You schmuck, did you really think I was going to be dumb enough to kill myself?" And it turns out the prisoner who hung himself isn't actually dead. He's like supporting himself with some like lead pipe connected to his pants,
that.
and
Oh,
he knocks him out with it.
I so many times in this movie I jumped or gasped or like covered my leg. I was like, oh my god! I like totally jumped when he's like reading the note and then he looks up and the guy's like smiling at him, and I was like, oh my god! Like that, I definitely like that. That was so creepy. Yeah, he breaks
Yeah,
out and his mother and brother. These are the Fratellis.
yeah,
They're
the
like a
Fratellis.
crime family, and the mom. Okay, it was just kind of a close up, and you see the hat and the long hair. I thought it was a guy that looked that kind of looked like a woman, and then I realized no, it's a woman. This is their
Yeah,
mother.
yeah.
Um, and I
Um,
thought he's trying to get into the car. The guy's breaking out. He's trying to get into the car, and the door's locked.
and they're having the argument of like, oh, it's like the door's unlocked, like, but every time he's unlocking it, he's pulling it, which causes it to lock, and they're having like that whole thing. So he literally just climbs through the sunroof of the car,
It's like that
which I
same.
thought was really funny. But
Yeah,
before that, he's uh his brother has like a bunch of these like 2x4s like around the entrance of the jail, and then he's just pouring gasoline like right in front of this jail in broad daylight, and his brother walks out, puts on like a coat, like these like extra like clothes, like, wait, okay, how did he get out of like the cell block and get those clothes, and why did no one stop his brother from pouring gasoline in broad daylight in front of this jail? Did no one see any of these two people doing this?
yeah. That was I was gonna wait, but I'll just bring this up now. This was my this was probably my only like biggest issue was what was their plan? They broke him out and then that's it. Like there wasn't it didn't
Yeah.
seem like there was a purpose to it. I thought this was again, don't judge me. This was my first time seeing the Goonies. I don't have a good excuse why I haven't watched it.
How
Um
dare you?
but I thought it was going to be like the kids were going to foil their plans, or they also were after the treasure, or I thought maybe that they were related to, spacing on his name, but Copperpot. Like, I thought they,
Chester Copperpot.
yes, I thought that they were going to be more involved, and I realized later, I'm
To
like, no, they just kind of broke out and
Yeah.
there was no
Well, no,
real plan.
they did have a plan. The plan was, and for some reason, like the mom just didn't tell like the brother that they broke out, was to take their uh four-wheel drive SUV car that matched the description of all these other SUVs to a race on the beach and just blend in with the crowd, join the race, and the cops wouldn't be able to spot them in the crowd as easily, and then just escape through that, which
No, I
worked
know, and
perfectly.
that was really smart. Like I thought that was great. No, I meant like after losing the cops, like what was the point of breaking him out? Like other than okay, they want him broken out, great, but then
Yeah.
they hung around. Like there was just no real. Didn't seem like there was a strong reason for why they broke
Well,
him
I
out.
feel like the main reason they broke him out was, well, one, he's family, and two, he knows like where the other two, like where the hideout is, and he might make like a plea bargain. It's like, all right, I'll sell out my family if I get a lighter sentence. So it's like, I think there was just like that fear of potentially selling out because the two brothers, they fight each other constantly. They
Mm-hmm.
literally like threaten to shoot each other over a like pizza or later on in the movies. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, no, like the sense
Oh
of
yeah.
betrayal, like that's
Yeah.
strong. The mother had to break him out for her own sake at that point.
I
So
mean,
it's like
okay.
I feel like there was a very real possibility that he would have totally sold out his brother and potentially his mother just to save his own skin.
Okay, but I still think for this movie and the content and the audience, there should have been a little bit more of a connection to the larger story on why he was broken out. But that's a fair point. But I think it's just not enough. Uh,
Yeah. But
but yeah.
yeah, but
Anyway, yeah.
yeah, as they escape, they're driving through the town being chased by the cops, and as they're driving by, we're introduced to like pretty much the entire cast of the Goonies. So we get Chunk, Mouth, Data, like they're all just kind of doing their
That was
own
a
things.
great way of introducing the cast.
Yeah,
That was a
seriously.
great way. So yeah, you see like Mouth is helping his dad. Or they're actually they don't even really the only one that sees this is Chunk.
Chunk, and no one believes him.
Everyone else is just like doing their
Random
life.
stuff,
They're
yeah.
doing life, they're doing whatever and no one else seems to notice, but like yeah, they're and I just thought that was such a great way to introduce the whole cast. Um, we then meet our main character, Mikey, played by Sean Astin, and his older brother, Brand, who is Josh Brolin. And I was so they are called the Goonies. They're all called the Goonies because they live in the Goondocks.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay,
they live just like out in like the middle of like nowhere. They live like kind of like in like the crummy part of town, and that is illustrated even more because one of like the rich kind of like elitist kind of basically like the tennis club douchebag type character shows
yes,
up. It's like, oh, I need your dad to sign this so we can foreclose all these homes and turn this into a golfing a golf course. Like,
because
and
I
then they
was
make the joke,
yeah,
yeah, and then make the jokes like, I hope they turn our house into a sandpit so they can get their balls stuck in it.
I was getting kind of mixed up because I'm like, okay, they're moving, and then wait, they're not like and they're like it's our last day of like being a Goonie. I'm like, so I thought they were like moving, and it's like no, they're just leaving this house, this area. They're probably gonna still stay in town, and then I, I don't know, I was not very clear on what was going on. And then the mom kept talking. We meet the mother. They keep consistently talking about the dad, and we don't meet him until they're like till later. They just ride by the museum. They're like, "Hey, dad," and then just move on. And I kind
Yeah.
of thought that was like if there should have been another scene with the dad in the beginning
Well, I mean, he
of
wasn't
us.
like
No, I
he wasn't
know,
that important to the story,
no,
so
I
it's like
know,
it
but
didn't seem needed.
if he was like at the house and then just like maybe left with the mom like oh I gotta go run back to work like there was just something I just thought it was weird that they kept bringing him up kind of like I mean he clearly based on how they were bringing it up he clearly was a figure in their life. I just thought it was a little odd that he's important because he was the one that supplied all this information. That's why they have all this
Yeah.
stuff in their attic. That's why they're aware of One-Eyed Willie. I just thought it was kind of weird that it was we only meet him through a very quick like, "Hey, Dad," and then just keep
Yeah.
going. I just thought that was yeah.
I do think that like a good way to introduce him is when Mikey is telling everyone like the story of like One Eye Willie in the attic. We could have just jumped to a flashback of his dad telling Mikey that story like as like a bedtime story. It's like that would have been a cool like way to kind of introduce him. It's
Or
just like a
yeah,
random flashback of just him telling all of this.
or if maybe it wasn't a flashback, he maybe was up in the attic with them or something. Like I just think I just think he should have been there in because he was the one that supplied all this information. I think he should have been there other than that one scene and then the very end. I just thought that was kind of an odd choice. But anyway, so yeah, they're about to their house being foreclosed on. They're having to leave, and this is when all of the friends stop by. You have Mouth, who's Corey Feldman, Data,
Yeah, he's
who is
back.
at
Data.
Data. I kept thinking they called him Dana the whole movie.
Yeah, no, I thought so too, but no, it's Data, and they're just saying it
Data,
weird for some reason.
and
And he's Short Round
I
from
know.
Temple of Doom.
I was like short round. I was so excited when I saw him. And Chunk by Jeff Cohen. And am I missing anybody, or is that all of them?
Yeah, there's Chunk, Data, Bran, Mikey, Mouth. I
Yeah.
think that's pretty much everyone.
And so Corey Feldman, as he was in Lost Boys, this is 2 years before Lost Boys, when this aired, when this came out. So
Yeah.
I was realizing, and he was 16 when Lost Boys came out, so he was probably like 13 or 14 when he made this. And I just think it's so funny because he looks so much older in Lost Boys than he did in this
Oh,
movie.
yeah.
In this movie, he looks like he's maybe 10,
Yeah,
and
seriously. He looks
and
like
he's
at
like,
most 11 years old in this movie, and then the next one he looks like he's 15.
and I did mention how I thought, yeah, like I thought I like in Lost Boys, I thought that he was like 13 or 14, but this he looks so much younger. So much younger, and I just thought, like, man, 2 years he really just like grew up. um and
Yeah, seriously. So yeah.
Yes, and so they end up like they end up wandering up to, okay, actually before they go up to the attic, so the mom comes and has a it's like Hispanic housekeeper with her. She's like, she's gonna help us pack, and she's like, does anybody, you guys took Spanish, can you guys, like, I'm gonna explain to her what she needs to do and translate. And Mouth, who is just a little shit, was like telling her, oh yeah, if
Sure,
you
I'll
make a
translate. I
mistake,
can.
oh yeah, this, and she's like telling her, like, oh yeah, this is where the husband keeps all of his sex torture stuff. Oh, if you mess up, you're gonna be, but like, I'm like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, yeah.
And
Okay. To
like,
be fair, the mom's saying like, oh yeah, like this is where like we keep like all of our clothes. This is where
yeah,
like pants, shirts, like keep all of this stuff separated. And then Mouse all like, make sure you separate the drugs. Heroin and cocaine go on the top. Marijuana goes on the bottom. Keep them separate.
I just was like, oh my, I was like, when I first saw it, I was like, are you kidding? What a little shit.
I
um
know, but there's like a couple like words in Spanish that translate very well to English. Like he's
yeah,
like saying he's saying like sexual torture devices, and it's like sexual. It's like how does Mrs. Walsh not pick up on that?
yeah, I know some of the things he said. I know some of the things he was saying. I'm like, I mean, I know maybe you might not be fluent, but maybe she doesn't, I don't know, I
You can
know a
pick up a
few words.
couple
I know
words.
you most,
Yeah.
like a few words. um and they end up making their way up into the attic, and they're finding, so yeah, their dad works at the museum. They have all this stuff from there, and they come across, so Chunk is the clumsy, he is the,
He's the clumsy pathological liar.
yeah, because like nobody believes him for about anything. Like,
Yeah,
I
because he
saw
early.
this car chase with, and all these bullet holes and blah blah blah. And they're like, oh really? Like when Michael Jackson stopped at your house to use the bathroom. Oh,
It's like,
when
okay, Michael Jackson didn't stop by my house to use the bathroom, but his sister did.
but he
It's like he's just doubling down.
and he and but he's also of course the one in the group that likes to eat, and he is the clumsy one, and so they will a couple times throughout the movie get him to do stuff knowing he will break it. So Mikey finds this like picture and sees something underneath, and he hands it to Chunk, who drops it, and it breaks. And it's like, did you not
Yep.
just want to drop it just so you can, if someone says what happened, you can go, oh, it was Chunk's fault, because that
Yep.
the was
Plausible deniability.
and like later when they're trying to break into the shack, and Mouse says something like, oh yeah, I have pictures of your mom in the bathtub, and Chunk runs at him, and they move out of the way, and he knocks the door down, like, and like, oh thanks Chunk, like they it, they just like, I don't know, I just thought that was so like,
They
they
basically
know him
just use
so
him as like
well,
a
yeah, yeah,
they use him as like a human battering ram, and just they just kind of dump on him and it's like, all right, you're a tool for us. That is all. You're our friend, but you're our fat friend. We will use you as we see fit.
he's also like, he's not even really that fat, like
No,
he's
but I mean,
the
compared to the rest of them, he is.
yeah, but I mean, he's gonna it's the he's gonna get, it's one of those things, he's gonna grow and he's gonna even out, like that's what that looks like. It's that kind of, I don't know, I feel like I see that all the time, and someone will get made fun of for being fat, and it's like, they're not that fat, you're just like a
Yeah,
kid, like but uh anyway, so they find this treasure map, and they realize it's the map to One-Eyed Willie, and Mikey, explains the whole thing. His dad had shared with him about, One-Eyed Willie, and where he kept, like, I don't know, the whole, I don't remember the whole thing. It was,
yeah. It was pretty much just him saying that, like, oh yeah, One Eye Willie, he was just like this famous pirate, and the British like tracked him down, and he knew that he was going to be trapped and he was going to get killed. So he went into this cave, and the British sealed him in. And to prevent anyone from stealing his treasure, he made like all these elaborate tunnels and caves, and just put booby traps everywhere. And to make sure that no one knew to how to get to his treasure, he killed all of his men. And then it's like, hey Mikey, if he killed all of his men, then how did the map or the story make it out? It's like, oh yeah, I asked my dad the same thing, and he said one of his men must have made it out with the map. And then they all just kind of dismiss him as like, you're full of it. It's like, if this was real, then why isn't this in a museum or in some rich guy's safety deposit box? And that does bring up a question. It's like, why does the dad have all this like museum items in his attic, and why is this not in like the museum's like storage facility or something like that?
yeah,
It just seems weird that like some random employee, and apparently a low paying employee since his house is being foreclosed on, is holding all this very priceless antiques that should be in a museum that just aren't there because weren't good enough.
yeah, um,
I just thought that was really weird. It's like, why is this random employee just have all these like pirate treasure maps and museum piece like artwork?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It didn't. I mean, you're kind of just like whatever about it, but no, exactly. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. But Mikey's like, if we can find it, maybe we can save our house, and all of them are just saying no, whatever. And especially Brand, who the mom basically said you can't let him out. And oh wait, I forgot. There's a scene I really want to talk about when
Yeah.
the people that are going to foreclose in the house come by, and they're like, "Is your dad home?" And Brand's like, "No," and they're like, "Is your mommy home?" And it's like, first of all, these are all clearly like at least 10 year olds, like, and
Like they're
Brand's,
teenagers.
Brand's just like, uh, no, she's not. She's out buying Pampers for us. Like, he's like 16 years old. You don't need to treat him like he's a baby. I just thought that was so like, he's like, I appreciate that he called him out on it, being like, no, no. I thought he was gonna say, no, my mommy's not home. I was waiting for that. But I thought that
Yeah,
whole
no, he,
scene,
he
yeah.
he was just calling him out as like, okay, you're talking down to me, I'll talk down to you, asshole.
Um, but the mom basically said to Bran, like, don't let Mikey out
Don't
because he has asthma and just not really safe. And but Brandon and Mikey have they have a solid relationship.
Yeah, like he picks on him, but he there are moments like earlier on when they're first being introduced where it's like, oh, I care about you too, Squirt.
Yeah,
Now get the hell away from me.
yeah,
And he just throws him across the room after this like mildly touching
yeah.
moment.
So they end up, and he's like constantly working out, and he's using one of those like, I don't know what they're called, but they're like the hands, the things with the handles that with the
Yeah,
springs and
it's like a tension cable
yes,
or something. I don't know specifically what it's
they
called, but
use
yeah, it's basically just a spring with like two handles on the side of it that you just pull for tension.
they use those to tie him up, and they run away, and because they're like they're gonna go find treasure, and then he's trying, and I guess the mom comes home. He's still tied. He's sitting on the chair, tied up. Or no, he's on his back, like
Yeah,
turtling.
yeah,
And the
yeah.
mom's like,
He
and
fell over.
the mom's just like, what are you doing? Like, why? What is it with you and your weird workouts? He's like, Mom, like on time. Like she's not
and
getting it.
and and Rosalita's
Rosalita.
freaking out. It's like, oh god, no! Is this a cartel hit? Because they're talking about drugs and all this like weird stuff going on in the house. Like,
Yeah,
what did I just walk myself into?
yeah.
These people are crazy. I'm going to die.
Um, and then he decides to like he eventually gets free. He goes out to go look for them. They flatten his tires so he can't chase him. There's a little girl on like a pink bike with a basket and training
Yeah,
wheels. He literally
yeah,
picks her up
tricycle.
and takes the bike, and she's just like standing there like, "That's my
I
bike." Like,
I want my bike. I want my bike.
and they so the Goonies find, they figure out like, oh, the two rock formations and the lighthouse, so that's where the treasure is. And they see the shack, and they see some people go in, and then that's when Chunk stumbles upon the garage and sees the car and the bullet holes, and is like, oh my
Yeah,
god, this is the car, this is the car. They
yeah.
go and
But
yeah,
before they even get that close, they hear what sounds very clearly to me two gunshots and like mouth uh Data and Mikey are like, oh, what was that? And then Chunk runs up, is like, Mikey, that was a gunshot. Like, you gotta believe me. Like, that was a gunshot. And they just all assume it's like, oh, Chunk believes it's a gunshot. It must not be a gunshot, so they just don't believe him.
but it's like they
And it's
hear
like,
it.
oh yeah,
Like,
yeah. It's like, no, it was something else. They must have dropped something. They dropped some wine or something. Like, it's like, oh, okay.
because that's
Uh,
the sound that wine makes when it lands on the
yeah,
ground.
I forget what they like mistakenly thought it was to try to like ease their minds out of it. It's like, yeah, no, that clearly wasn't a gunshot. That wasn't anything like that.
And
Um,
they
so
stumble
yeah,
inside, and this is when we meet the mother of the
the
Fratellis,
Fratellis,
and
yeah,
yeah, she is way more terrifying than the son. She kind of makes me think of like Kathy Bates in Misery a little bit, like that. Mainly her hair and her like design, but also she's just herself is very creepy and bitchy, and I understand later when it's like they know too much, but at this point, she could be just like, oh, stupid kids wandered in here, get out of here, like we're closed,
yeah. It's like,
and they're
yeah, because
yeah,
I think like her reasoning is like if they actually saw or heard anything, then why would they even be here? Because if they heard the gunshots or saw the gunshots or like kill those two, like we later learned that they were like they were like cops or like government agents or something. They were some type of authority.
yeah.
Like then why would these kids even be here if they knew that we had just killed two guys? So I'm gonna mess with them, freak them out, scare them out of here. Um, which kind of works.
Well, before then, so she serves them water, and it's brown. Then Mikey's like, I
It's like
gotta
it's wet in it. Drink it.
Mikey's like, I gotta pee, I gotta use the bathroom, and she's like tells him like, fine, but stay to the right, don't go to the left. And he is trying to follow the map, and he stumbles upon Sloth, who is the Fratelli's other brother, who we find out at the end, apparently he got dropped a couple times, and I'm like, I mean, is this the
Yeah,
result of being dropped?
I think there was like more to it than that, but it definitely is a factor.
and he's chained to the wall. Mikey ends up he goes back up, freaked out, and Brand is there. And actually, before Brand is there, Brand's chasing after them on this bike. And so then we officially meet Troy, who's like the, school like jock, asshole guy. Uh, Andy, who's, his girlfriend or whatever, and Steph, her best friend, who is Martha Plimpton, who she was the mother in Raising Hope. I was like, oh, you, like, I didn't know she was in this. And, they see him, and okay, Andy at first started off as being the, like, I thought she was gonna be like, oh, she's the popular girl, but she's actually really sweet, and I don't know, she got on my nerves. Like, she was just, oh, I can be on board with damsel in distress, but not when you're intentionally playing it up, which is what she did throughout the movie.
Yeah, she's kind of useless.
And they see him and they're driving along. They see him on the bike and they're like, hey, can we give you a ride? And he's like, oh, no, I'm good. And then to Troy, he grabs him, holds his hand down, races down the car, and sends him flying like over the
Over the edge of
cliff.
a
And it's
cliff.
like,
It's like, dude, you just killed a guy.
yeah, I'm like, you might have just killed, yeah, I'm like, you might have just killed him. What the hell? And so, Bran finds them in the shack and just like trying to get them out, and of course, no one believes
Chunk or
Chunk or Mike
Mikey
about
that
what he
that
saw.
yeah, it's like, yeah, Mikey saw, it's like, I saw a giant and it was chained to the wall and it was all gross and disfigured and everything. And of course the only one who believes him is Chunk, so therefore no one believes him.
And yeah,
And no one believes Chunk that's like, yeah, I just saw an SUV with bullet holes like this big, and he's over exaggerating the size of the bullet holes. He's holding up both hands and trying to make a circle with it. It's like, dude, no, the bullets were not that big. They were like 9 millimeter. You're holding like the size of like an elephant gun,
yeah,
like size, like like shotgun shell.
yeah.
It's like, dude, you're exaggerating. Stop it. Chunk, go home.
And then Steph and Andy, make their way down there like, hey, we're so sorry about what Troy did and blah blah blah, and they kind of just eventually are unknowingly along for the ride, and they end up finding they're following the map, and they
Yeah,
find this. I really like jumped. Uh, Chunk smells ice cream. He opens a freezer, and then there is a dead guy in there, and his eyes are still wide open.
yeah.
I was like,
It's
oh, like I legitimately gasped. I like,
yeah, yeah, it's one of the agents that they shot, and before they even go inside, the Fratellis leave carrying a giant body-sized garbage bag, throw it in the car, and you hear them saying like, get him in the car. It's like, why'd you shoot a cop? And like you hear them saying this, but I guess the rest of the people there don't. Um,
yeah,
and they're like, oh, what was that? It's like, restaurant trash. Yeah, just normal restaurant trash, and they're just getting rid of it. Um, they're trying to rationalize it so they are not like freaking out that they just potentially witnessed a murder
yeah.
or anything like that. So after the Fratellis leave, they break back in. It's like, okay, I'm gonna show you guys that. It's like, yeah, this is it, and they all go inside because the girls step on a rake and there's like a fish skin
Ugh,
on the
yeah.
tight on the handle of the rake, so it jumps out in front of them. So they freak out, run inside. It's like, God, something jumped out in front of us, trying to kill us. I was so scared.
I mean, I'd scream at that too. That was pretty
Yeah,
horrifying.
and then they go downstairs, find the dead body, and then they find a printing press that's just printing a bunch of $100 bills, and it's like, oh my god, I recognize these people because they have like their own one poster downstairs.
Yeah,
It's like, oh, it's the Fratellis. They're the people upstairs. Like, oh man, we're dead. So they escape through a tunnel that they discover in the fireplace after knocking over a water cooler. It's like, all right, this is where we're gonna have to go. Except they accidentally leave Chunk in the
they're trying
freezer.
to push the
So
get dead guy back in, and Chunk is like leading him in, and then I'm like, oh no, they're gonna forget him. And I thought it would be like a second. No, they forget him, and they leave him in
for
there.
like a good
And Then Chunk eventually, and the Fratellis come back. Chunk goes to the fireplace, and they're like, "You gotta break out. You gotta go get help." And I don't know. I kind of thought, I get, yes, he's not in the fireplace. He could just go get help, but also he's still in the house. It might be just safer for him to go down with them at that point.
Yeah, but I mean, like, no one knows where they are. It's just like,
Yeah.
okay, he's not in here. It's like we need someone to call
So
the police. Go out the window.
the
So
next
yeah,
gasp moment comes a few minutes later. Chunk escapes. He runs to the street and he stops a car and says, "My friends and I, we just found the Fratelli's hideout. You got to take me to the sheriff's station." And it's the brother that was broken out of jail in the beginning, and I was just like, "Oh God!" And he's constantly singing. I guess he is an opera singer, that actor, and so he
no,
sings
no,
opera a lot.
I don't think so. But I mean, yeah, he just sings like randomly just a bunch
Let
of
me look
like
it up. I
opera in Italian or something like that. But yeah, he's just constantly singing. It's like, oh,
yeah.
yeah, just like what? And his brother just like grabs Chunk and just tries to manhandle him, throws him in the trunks. Like, how could you have this much of a problem
Oh,
with a kid?
he's
And
a trained opera
he throws him.
singer. Yeah.
Oh, he
Yeah.
is.
And so that's why
Oh,
he I guess it was his idea to sing a lot, especially to Sloth. And I
okay.
it was a night it was an interesting little trait, but I was also like, why are you singing? Stop, like, you're
It's
constantly
like,
singing.
it's creeping me out, man.
They take Chunk, they put him in the back of the car with the dead
And
guy,
the other dead body.
and the goon side, they got to make their way. They realize they got to follow the map. They're making their way into the cave, and they come across a bunch of pipes, and they realize they're right under the country club, and so all these like guys are in the
Yeah,
shower, and the like handles are like disappearing or breaking, and they're all just like,
yeah.
what, like eyes
the
bugging
the
out. Yeah.
a random water fountain is just going up and down. It
That was
hits a
so
dude in the
funny.
face
He's
trying to
trying to drink, the water fountain's just getting pulled down, and he keeps going down with it, and then yeah, it comes up and hits him in the face, and I was like, what?
and it just launches it backwards. Like, okay, that was really funny. And then Troy's using going to the bathroom, and the toilet just Old Faithful just geyser launches him into the roof.
That was Troy.
He,
Okay, I wasn't. Yeah,
yeah, that was Troy. Then he just like falls down. Water's just flowing everywhere and just splashing everywhere, and he's just like, "Daddy!"
yeah,
And everyone, all the Goonies are downstairs, like they're all freaking out because the pipes are freaking out because Mouth was able to like identify as like, oh man, like if we bang on all these pipes, because his dad's a plumber, so he knows what these things go
yeah,
to. It's like, if we bang on these, it'll make a bunch of noise, but someone will probably hear us and come down and save us. Um, but it caused like some like built up pressure, and it turns one of the pipes into like this pressure washer, and it just blasts this boulder out of the way and opens up a secret tunnel, and they all go through that to escape the chaos that they just caused.
and some of these traps are crazy. They eventually stumble
Yeah.
across. Was it, what was the name again? Joe Copperpot? I
Oh
don't know why
yeah,
it's
we
Joe. I
didn't
keep thinking
Chester
Chester
Copperpot. Yeah,
Copperpot.
we didn't mention this before. But in the attic, all the Goonies and everyone, they don't believe that this treasure, like One Eye Willie, like the entire treasure is real, until they find this article from like a long time ago. I don't remember the specific year that they said that it was. Um, but local treasure hunter Chester Copperpot quotes, "I found the key to One-Eyed Willie," and then they find his body and a like a necklace type key that is just a skull face with like holes, like triangle holes for the eyes and the nose, and it's just that.
Hmm.
So they take it off, but his head rolls off, his skull rolls off. It's like, oh, okay, and they're all freaking out, and it's like, quick, check his wallet, see who it is, because no one remembers who this person is. Like, oh, it's that Chester Copperpot guy, except for Mouth, and it's like, and when they check his wallet, is like, it is Chester Copperpot.
Yeah.
It's like, oh man, this guy was a pro. If he didn't make it, then what chance do we have? And they're
Yeah,
freaking
yeah,
out.
yeah. Uh, but then, it's I think later is when Mikey makes the point, like, look how far we've come. Like, we can't just. When they're underneath a wishing well, and they're like, he's like, look how
Yeah,
far we've come, though. We can't stop. And uh, but anyway, yeah, and or when they find Chester Copperpot, they realize that there's a bunch of booby traps, and he like find and they're
yeah.
pretty elaborate, like,
Oh, extremely.
and so yeah,
Yeah, it's a bunch of these like stone pillars supported by chains that if they like open the wrong door or something, it'll just cause all these boulders to in this very narrow hallway to just come crashing down to the
yeah,
floor, which eventually happens, but they manage to get away in time. And after Data finds some like flares and sets up some booby traps, and they keep making the same joke. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna set up some booby traps. It's like, you mean booby traps? That's what I said,
yeah.
booby traps. It's like, well, all right.
um
Like they say this like I think they make that same joke like a couple times in the
So
movie.
the thing about Data is he's like the inventor of the group, which isn't really explained, other than at the very end. I guess his dad is also an inventor, but he has all of these. He wears constantly all of these various like contraptions, and they're things that save their lives like a few times. And
Oh yeah.
so yeah, he goes, and when the traps are set, they're like, at first I thought they're like boulders are like falling, and I'm like, oh my god, run! Like, I thought we're so afraid that he was gonna get because of where he was. And then yeah, and then they like make it out, and yeah, it's pretty. There are just, yeah, so many times where you are just on the edge of your seat in this movie.
Yeah, there are multiple times where like one or if not all of them almost dies. Like Data in particular, he almost dies quite horrifically later on. He almost uh he almost falls in this like spike
Yeah,
pit, and he uses this like teeth, like these like pair
yeah,
of like fake dentures attached to a spring that launches out from his sleeve and just grabs onto a rock above him, and he just uses it as a grappling hook, and it's like, oh my god, it's like, hey guys, I found another room, and apparently it
yeah,
was the right room that just happened to lead to a very treacherous
yeah,
entrance. Yeah, it is really fun how they kind of go about this, but in the wishing well, um they're all like, "Oh, we should get out of here," and they find Troy and a couple of his like buddies like bragging about. It's like, "Oh, so how far have you made it with Andy?" It's like, not that far, man. But I mean, it's only a matter of time before we
yeah.
go all the
Troy is
way."
basic
And
'80s
that,
gross, like high school, like jock, like in the beginning of the movie when we first meet
but
them, he's like lowering his mirror, his rear view mirror, so he can look down her shirt. And it's like, first of all, gross. Second of
yeah,
all, that's dangerous.
class
You
act.
need that to see behind you. And they basically are like, you know, he's like, what? So he throws a penny down, wishing that he'll go all the way with Andy. Which, first of all, if you say it, it won't come true. Dumb shit. Secondly,
Ex-
the coin
exactly.
comes back up, and he's like, what? And he catches it, and then he realizes they're all down there, and he's like, Andy, what are you doing down the well? And she's like, just go get help. And or lower the
It's like, see, guys, wishes do come
bucket
true.
so they can get out. And they're all about to get out, and then I don't remember, is it uh Data who tries to go
Data.
first. I don't know. Somebody tries to go first, or maybe it was Mouth, and Brand's like, no, because Mouth in the Brand in the beginning was like, I'm the oldest, I'm in charge, and he's like, Andy's gonna go first. And I was thinking, don't have Andy go first because you know that it's Troy. He's just gonna only help her. He's not gonna help any of the others. And they decide anyway. And this is
Yeah,
when Mikey has a speech of, no, like, he can't leave. Like, look how far we've come, and we made it farther than Chester Copperpot. Like, we got to keep going. So then Andy just sends up just the Troy's like Letterman like sweater, and he sees it and he goes,
yeah, and then he's like, Andy, you
And
goonie.
yeah.
And multiple times throughout this, it keeps cutting back to Chunk after being kidnapped by the Fratellis, and it's like, all right, I want you to spill your guts about everything. It's like everything, because they're threatened to put his hand in a blender and destroy his hand. And so instead of him telling them what they want to hear of where his friends went and that basically the entire situation that they're currently in, he's telling them all the bad stuff that he did. It's like, oh, one time I cheated on my spelling test, and one time I pushed my sister down the stairs
Well,
and I
yeah, well,
blamed it on
so
the
yeah.
dog,
Well, they're
and
trying to
one
get
time I
him
went.
to talk,
He's so.
like where are your friends? What do you guys know? And they're gonna like they're threatening to like put his hand in the blender, and then he's
Oh
a
yeah.
kid. He's crying. He's freaking out, and he says finally like revealing all of the past mistakes he's made. And yeah, he starts doing it. It cuts back to the Goonies, then cuts back to him. He's still doing it, then cuts back, and then cuts back again. He's still going, just like
And I just love the reactions of the Fratellis. Like the one brother who's like wearing a hairpiece. He's just like hand in his face, like, Jesus Christ, what have I done? And the other brother's like, hey mom, I'm really starting to like this kid. Because one of the stories that he says is that one time I went to a movie theater and I went up to the second balcony and I had this plastic bag full of like fake vomit and I pretended to make all these vomiting noises and went huh, huh,
yeah.
and then I just threw it over, and everyone. This was awful. Everyone just started puking on each other, and that was the worst thing I ever did in my life. And then it's like the mom is just like, "All right, hit puree." We're putting his hand in. It's like, "No, not my hand." And then right after they did that, earlier on, the group down in the tunnels opens up this like cavern, and like this huge stream of bats just flies through, and it's like, oh man, we messed up, and the bats just burst through the fireplace and just swarm over the Fratellis and Chunk, and it's like, oh, see, I told you there was a tunnel there, and then they just believe him after that, and then they just lock him up next to Sloth, and where Sloth and Chunk just bond almost immediately because Sloth offers him a Baby Ruth bar, and then Sloth breaks his chains and then breaks Chunk out, and then it's like, all right, I'm gonna call the cops, and the cops don't believe him because apparently he's made a bunch of prank calls to the cops as well, and one of them was just the Goonie or was Gremlins. He's like,
Yeah.
oh, is this about the time about all those critters that multiply when you get them wet? And it's like, oh, is this about the Armenian terrorists that took over the Holiday Inn? And he's like, Jesus, Chunk.
So yeah, he when he meets Sloth, he's like, trying to make friends with him, and he's like beyond terrified. And Sloth is terrifying. And he offers him
Oh
like
yeah.
a baby Ruth, and that's of course, and then he tries to toss it to him and hits him with it. And he's like,
Yeah, he hits him in
I'm
the
sorry. But
head.
you know, they get out. They bust out, and then they go after everyone else, which I'm like, yeah, like that's nice. And so the Goonies, yeah, they're making their way, and then the Fratellis are, because it's easier. They're just following their footsteps, and as well as they've already set off traps, and they don't really need to go through any major hurdles that the Goonies haven't figured out already. So they're hot on their trail, and this is when things get really. They see that they're right behind them. They're having to cross this like log, and uh Data decides, ugh, I can't.
You keep making this in, yeah,
Data.
Data. He
I
is
need,
like, it's like,
yeah.
I got an idea, slick
He has like
shoes, and
oil
he
in his
for
shoes. Like,
some reason has like, yeah, he has like an oil slick just spurting out of the back of his sneakers, and he's just leaving this like very slippery trail on this already looking like a very like slippery log. It's just covered in moss and is constantly slick from water just rushing over it. And it's like, how is this log even still there after being there for potentially hundreds of years? Like you would think that with that constant stream of water that it would have rotted away at least from the
yeah,
bottom, and just given out from the weight of what, 8 people walking over it.
yeah, and the Pertelli brothers, slip on it and land right on the log, and ha ha, it's funny because they're land right on their
They
balls.
they
Yeah,
fell on their nuts.
and then the next
Yeah,
one does the same thing, and then this is when things get very on edge. They
dangerous.
have
Yeah,
it's like a piano. You have to play it right. So if you make too many mistakes, the floor is going to give away. So anytime they and I thought that was
yeah.
like, do you think it was certain notes trigger certain parts of the floor to to give way, or do you think it was just like the timing?
I think it was just I think it
Yeah,
was just timing, not necessarily like, oh, this wrong note was played at the wrong time, so this specific part. I think it was just whenever they hit a random thing, like this section's gonna fall off. It was just which
yeah.
section was gonna fall off at a random
And
point, not just
if
it was
she
timed.
plays and so
Um,
Andy was the one playing, and she hits the right notes, like a door basically starts to open, like
uh,
a ledge starts opening,
yeah, their only escape
and
opens.
it's very on edge. They're running out of places. They're running out of floor, and they're all holding on to each other. They are out of floor, and if she misses, makes it was like I can't tell if it's an A sharp or a B flat, and
It's like, hey, if you get it wrong, we're all gonna be flat. It's like, it's like, nah, it's not the
oh, I
time,
think
Mikey.
I skipped. Did we skip a part where they when they stop for their like pee break, and Steph
Oh
is telling
yeah,
Andy like, "Come on, like this. I'll hear of all places, like now." And then she's like, Brand," and I don't get why. I mean, it's stupid teenage boy. He doesn't seem to. The fact that the whole movie, every time they're together, they almost kiss, her and Brand, and she's
yeah,
calling after him. Brand's like, "Hey, Mikey, go see what she wants." It's just like, oh boy.
yeah. Go see what
It's
she's
it's
whining
then
about, will
very
ya?
dark. She grabs Mikey, unaware that it's Mikey, and kisses him. And it's just like he's like, okay, and then just
What's
whatever.
going
Yeah,
on?
afterwards he's kind of like, well, that just happened. And Steph is dying laughing. She's first of all, Andy's like, I don't. He's actually a really good kisser. I didn't, realize he had braces.
It's like, does
It's like,
Bran
first of
wear
all,
braces?
you see him.
and,
You see he
and
doesn't wear braces.
no, yeah, but Steph's all like, next time you should kiss with your eyes open. It's a whole different experience. And then she's like, I was like, oh, watch your step. I think Bran was stepping in a
Because
hole
he's
that whole
shorter.
time
He's
because she
shorter.
didn't. Because
I was like,
yeah,
oh my god. And yeah, after that, they started to have like there were these like little. I don't know. It was like there was more dialogue between Mikey and Andy after that. And I wasn't sure, and I'm like, is it because she
yeah.
figured out that that wasn't Brand, and she realized she liked? It was kind of weird. I wasn't really.
I mean,
So
she doesn't
yeah, no,
figure
she doesn't
that
think.
out until
Yeah,
like
yeah,
the
no, I
very
know, but at the
end.
time I was like, huh. But yeah, she at the end, she and Brand finally kiss, and she's like, "What happened to your braces?" He's like, "I don't wear braces. Mikey wears,"
Like,
which is
it's
like,
like, it's like,
but
Mikey,
also
that
Mikey
son of a
didn't
bit.
go
No.
in intentionally to make out with this teenager. He just went in because he's like, "Oh, I think she needs help." Like he was being like a nice person. And I just thought the whole thing was like, come on, you know that he didn't go out of his way to make out with this girl that you're trying to get with. Um,
Mikey's stealing your
but
girl.
yeah.
Take
Yeah.
that, Thanos.
I know. I know at the very end when the jewels are revealed, I'm like, and that's when he becomes obsessed with stones, and
The
he turns
Infinity
purple
Stones.
and turns into Thanos. Yeah. Um I was waiting that the whole movie. I'm like, I know at some point I'm gonna make like a Thanos joke. Uh any
I beat
but
you
anyway,
to it.
I meant even when I was just watching it, not even this podcast, just when I was watching the movie, I'm like, where is that Thanos joke gonna be? Like,
Yeah.
where is the Thanos meme in this movie? Um,
The
so
meme.
yeah, was it Mouth though that said
Um,
the whole
yeah,
if you press the wrong one, we're gonna be flat?
I
And
think
I'm
that was Mikey,
or
but
it was
yeah,
Mikey or
after
it
they do that,
was
they
I don't remember if it's Mikey or Mouth, but I just love I think Brand's I think yeah, it was Mikey and Brand's face after was just very like ugh.
It's like,
And I'm
dude,
pretty sure. And I'm
seriously?
looking at, she's like, I don't know if it's A sharp or B flat. I mean, it was A sharp. It had the sharp thing. It wasn't a
Yeah, yeah,
like.
I don't know. I don't
I
know how to
mean,
read
the
sheet
usually has a
music.
flat next to it.
But
But
yeah,
anyway,
but yeah, she hits the right note and they escape, and the Fratellis like they get there like just after they solve that, and they go down this water slide which leads to this basically like this hidden lake, and he's like, oh, we found the ship, we found it. And this was something that my dad, whenever this movie is like on TV, my dad always asks like, "Oh, is this the part where the octopus shows up?" And for the longest time, I had no idea what he was talking about, because apparently there's a scene in this movie that like a deleted scene in this movie where after they've fallen there and they're looking at the ship, apparently this octopus attacks them, and they fight an octopus. And at the very end of the movie, with the
yes,
scene, even with the scene cut, they're talking to like these reporters, like they're sort of like, oh yeah, we fought the Fratellis, and we found this octopus, and we found this ship. And they're like, the reporters like, what the hell's going on? And for the
that's
longest
what
time,
that
it's like,
was.
wait,
I
when was
thought
the
they were just
octopus?
like being like, I don't know. I thought they were just trying to make it more adventurous, even more adventurous for some reason. Okay,
It's
I was
like,
like, yeah, I heard that. I'm like, octopus. That's weird.
yeah, yeah. There's a deleted scene. You can find it on YouTube. Just a deleted scene of just them fighting an octopus. And I think the way they do it is they just put like a Walkman like on its head and just crank the music all the way up, and like that just like shocks its system enough to just like
Ugh.
leave them alone. Um, it yeah, it was kind of weird. I'm kind of glad that they cut it, but it's just like because it was kind of a weird pace breaker and just kind of out of nowhere. And also the octopus looks kind of garbo.
They're
It's very rubbery looking, like
yeah,
something out of like a 1950s like sci-fi
yeah.
B movie.
But yeah, they
Um,
find the treasure. They find the ship. They they go in. They kind of go exploring, and Mikey goes in alone for a second and finds One Eyed Willie, and basically they all start taking everything. And it's actually this very like kind of tender. It's a sweet moment, just of like he did it. He made it this far. And and then everybody apparently was listening. Oh, so before, way earlier in the movie, they come across these candles, and I'm like, oh, it's dynamite, guys. Have you ever seen a movie?
yeah,
But
yeah,
then later,
yeah, the flares yeah, the flares that Data uses for like booby traps, a couple of them are labeled dynamite
but
or
then
TNT, and I guess they just
but then
ignored that for
later
now.
they're holding candles, and I'm like, oh, they are candles. Oh, okay, what a twist of events. And then no, later there is dynamite. um,
Yeah, they were just a mixed bag. It was just a very precarious mixed bag. But yeah, when they're in the treasure room, they're it's like Mouth is like trying to grab stuff from some treasure from like this
balance
like
thing, yeah.
weighted kind of balance thing, and it's like, no, leave that, that's for Willie, everything else you can take that. And earlier on we see that Sloth and Chunk are like, all right, we're like, the cops are a no show, we're gonna go down there and we're gonna try to save them ourselves. And they're you see them every once in a while just kind of like slowly following them. They just like, oh yeah, we totally found them, they were definitely here, because they find all the pipes that are still moving and bouncing everywhere. And Sloth just like, all right, he just pushes them all up, and you just hear this
Yeah.
car crashing, this lady screaming, and a bunch of sirens like, oh. It's like, okay, that's
Um
funny.
uh they and then
um
of course the Fratellis finally have caught up with them and
yeah.
make them give up all of their stuff. Mouth has a bunch of stuff in his mouth. He had like a long chain of pearls and a bunch of like gems, and they tie them up, and Andy calls her a witch, and then she like grabs a sword and then has her walk the plank. And I was just waiting because their hands were tied, but their feet were free. But also, I'm like, I was just waiting for someone. I'm like, I really want to see at some point, I want to see somebody walk a plank and then being like, oh no, it's not like I can swim, and then just jump off willingly. Because as long as you can move, and there's no like,
Yeah,
it's not like shark infested waters. You should be fine. And then and she's of course
exactly.
freaking out, and I'm like, I don't know. I feel like by this point, I'd be like, you know what? I would just be so I don't know. There were a couple times where I'm like, why can't someone just run at her and push her overboard? Not the Mrs. Fratelli, like she's and then
Yeah.
Bran dives in after her, and then of course this is when he gets her. They finally kiss, and she makes note like, "Huh, your braces are gone," and he and
Yeah. Um yeah, and while the Vertellis are like, "All right, two down. Who's next?" Like, "Wait, Brown wasn't even tied up." So it's like, "What did you accomplish? You knocked them off the ship. You can still climb up the ship. They're
I know,
they're
and
still there." It's like you didn't kill them or stop anything. You just made it more inconvenient for you to kill them
even
now because they're now out of
yeah,
range because like I don't
or
think
one
any
of
of
their
them have any
guns I
guns
think
anymore.
fell down in the ship. Like they lost their gun. But yeah,
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. When they first show up, Data's like, "All right, this is war. I'm gonna stop them." So he has like this like suction cup like thing in his belt buckle. It latches onto the Fratelli's only gun left, and it like instead of pulling the gun towards him, it pulls him towards the gun, and he like crashes into them, and it causes the gun to fall into like the bottom decks of the ship in like the hole like right in front of them. It's like so they just pull out swords from all the dead pirates. It's like, all right, now we're gonna play pirate.
yeah,
And
movie
after
that part
yeah,
was really cute when Sloth and Chunk
yeah,
show up, and they're in like the pirate stuff, and uh he
yeah, hey you
Chunk is getting to
guys.
his friends, and the Fratellis are trying to like handle Sloth. He then rips off his shirt, and he has a Superman shirt underneath, and and
Yeah. It's
he's
so
just
random.
so done with his family. And by this point, and he throws the mother overboard, and
Yeah, after he knocks out his brothers, they there's like I was like, oh yeah, let's play jump rope, and they're like mimicking like tying
mhm,
him up. It's like jump rope. It's like yeah, jump rope. Jump. It's like oh jump rope. It's like ring around, and they try to tie him up, and Sloth like immediately like pulls the rope towards himself and just causes his brothers to just headbutt
yeah,
and knock him out. And then his mom is all like, it's like, oh, remember when I used to sing to you? It's like, rockabye baby on the treetop, when the cradle will fall, when the ball breaks, the baby will fall. It's like, baby, and like as soon as like the Mama Fratelli says like baby will fall, it just like triggers Sloth's like it's like I only dropped you once or maybe twice, and then Sloth just throws his mother overboard and then just dives in after the Goonies after they all escaped. And as far as we know, they didn't take any treasure with them. They all dumped him on the deck of the ship when the Fratellis first
yeah.
captured them. So they managed to. There's like we're escaping with our lives, and Mike is all like, "Wait, Brian, what about all that rich stuff?" It's like well, it's like we. It's not gonna mean anything if we're all dead. It's like, but all that rich stuff is like, come on, and he just drags them out.
And the Fratellis decide, yeah, they try to go in and take some of the treasure. They take some from One Eye Willie's treasure, which sets off all these traps, a booby trap of
A
like
booby trap.
rocks falling, and basically they all gotta get out. They use some dynamite to blast an opening, and then a rock falls in front of it. Sloth
Yeah.
pushes it so he can get out. They all can get out, and Chunk's just like, no, Sloth, no, and it's so sad. I was like, no, and then yeah, they all
Yeah. It's like Sloth. Yeah, Sloth stays behind to make sure that the Goonies get taken out, or that the Goonies escape, and is like his mom and like the brothers like Sloth, help us. It's like mom, and it's like so he stays behind, and while this is all happening, like the entire like cave is collapsing, and a bunch of like parts of the ship are um basically just triggering from like that booby trap of like like the sails are being masked, and the anchor is being lifted, and this huge opening in the cave like right in front of the ship is just opening. They're just all these rocks are collapsing, so it's like what's going on. But after the Goonies escape, they're like found like immediately by the police, and all these reporters and their families show up
yeah,
within minutes. It's like, man, their response time was
yeah.
really fast.
That's yeah, yeah, and then the Fratellis show up, and Sloth, and of course they're trying to arrest Sloth too, and Chunk's like, no, these are the bad guys, like leave them alone,
He's a
and
good.
then
Yeah.
he's like, Sloth, you're gonna come live with me now because I love you, and he's like, I love you too. It was so cute. But yeah.
Yeah, it's like shouldn't you talk that over with your
Yes,
parents
yeah,
first?
yeah.
I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna invite this random stranger who I've known for a day, to live with us. I don't know if he's unstable or anything like that, but it's like he's my best friend now, and that's
So
all I need to know.
there's an episode of Bob's Burgers that's kind of spoofing a little bit on the Goonies,
Of
and
course there is.
it's like it's when they break into like the taffy factory, like that's about to be demolished, and
Oh
Louise
yeah,
gets
yeah,
stuck and lost, and she finds this like it's this like it's taffy, but it looks like a guy, and it's wearing like a coat and hat. And when they get out, she's like, "Now, Taff, you're gonna come live with me." And Linda's like, "You're not taking that thing home with us." Like, I was waiting for one of the parents to be like, "What? We're okay. We're adopting this
yeah.
adult messed up man."
This this yeah, this grown man. Also, why am I not surprised that you know the parody of a classic movie before
I
the
kind of
actual
knew,
movie?
like, because it's called the Belchies, so I think I knew it was based off the Goonies. I just hadn't seen the I don't know, but also this is what really finally sealed the deal for me was when there's a Cyndi Lauper song in this. That's like the Goonies are good enough, and there is a Bob's Burgers
Yeah,
equivalent, and it's the same music but different lyrics. Also, Cyndi Lauper. You can find it on Spotify or YouTube, whatever. It's called Taffy Butt, and it's the
that's funny.
same. It's like the same. It's so funny, and I was like, oh my god! And I think I kind of knew. Oh, the Belchies. It's like the Goonies. I knew that, but I don't think I knew the. Obviously, didn't really know the plot of the Goonies well enough that I
The movie to
no, like I
fully
knew like
piece
the
it
title
together.
was spoofing it. I didn't realize the whole episode was. But yeah, and so then the of course
Yeah,
the country club foreclosure guy comes over and like really right now you think this is an appropriate time to make him like give up his house and sign. Also, he
sign.
doesn't. It was just he had to sign because he couldn't. I guess they're foreclosing. He can't afford to live there anymore, and they all had to give up all. They had to give up all their
Yeah,
treasure. And was it what's the housekeeper's name again? Okay, and Rosalia
Rosalita.
finds in Mikey's pocket the Forellis didn't check. He has a couple like gems, and
Yeah, he has a marble bag, and she just like pours it out in his hand. And is like, oh
and
my
so
gosh.
yeah, they don't have to they don't have to get rid of the house. They can stay in, and then they see the pirate ship has well as we're seeing all the booby traps go off. The pirate ship makes its way into the bay, into the ocean, and Sloth starts going, oh, and then all the Goonies are going, ah, and then like that's the end of the movie.
Yeah, yeah. It's such a good movie. I absolutely love this movie. I'm very surprised that you had never seen this before until now.
I don't know. There's no good excuse for it. There's no good reason. I don't know why. I don't know. But
Well, for those of you keeping track at home, that's one less movie to knock off Sam's list.
yeah, I'm surprised. Lost Boys. I was mad. I thought it was on my list, and I guess it wasn't. And I was like, God, that's what the thing is. My list is so long that I miss certain movies. But
You missed the
now,
obvious ones.
now I have only 116 left. Wait. Oh well, this is a show. I'm gonna take this off. But anyway, um, this is a really fun movie. It's fun for any age. Whether it's definitely targeted for kids, but it's
Yeah.
kids, families. It's super fun. I was like, it's like a thrill ride. I was like on the edge of my seat. Because I started it late last night, and in the beginning, it's like the first 20 or so minutes. I paused. I'm like, maybe I'll just go to bed and watch this the rest tomorrow, and then I'll just be like, so I whatever. And then I like, no, just let's keep watching. And then I just got so sucked in.
Yeah.
um,
It's a very captivating movie for, like you said, for any and all ages. It's just I really like that about Steven Spielberg movies like this and Jurassic Park and I guess to an extent even Indiana Jones or like certain parts of it. Like
Hmm.
it's you can pretty much watch that at like any like for most people like any it's I'm really tongue tied. It's not dedicated to a singular demographic
Yeah.
or an age range. He kind of caters to everyone, and that's one of the reasons why PG-13 is even a thing. Is because he made a bunch of movies that kind of like rode the line between PG and R, so they just had to create a specific age rating because of movies like Jaws and Indiana Jones and Poltergeist. They were like,
Wasn't it Temple of Doom that was specifically the
I don't know if it was Temple of Doom specifically. I
it was Spielberg.
remember.
It was definitely Spielberg.
Yeah, it was
I
definitely
think it was
Spielberg. I
Temple
just
of Doom.
remember. Yeah, it was movies of Indiana Jones and Poltergeist that were pushing the envelope between PG and R. I don't remember if it was specifically Temple of Doom. I wouldn't be surprised because that one is a bit, I guess, edgier than the others.
Between the other
Um,
Indiana Jones, it's definitely a little creepier.
Graphic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Uh yeah.
Yeah. So it is really fun that the entire concept of PG-13 movies is more or less the thanks to Steven Spielberg. So for that, we thank you, Steven Spielberg, because we know you're listening.
Yeah.
You're
You're you're
you're
you're
our
an avid
one you're
fan.
our one yeah you're a rabid fan. We'll send you a T-shirt as soon as we make one.
Did you say a rabid fan?
Yeah, he's a rabid fan.
Interesting. I've never heard that. I don't know, maybe I have. I don't know. Anyway, um
So jumping into what we started last week of could this actually happen,
is
Sam?
this real?
Yeah.
I I think I kind of I'm thinking of the same things that happened like in Lost Boys. I kind of along the same lines of like I think the actions of these kids is very very realistic. Um,
Yes.
I but I think it's we I watching it last night and I still like the actions of characters I think are very realistic. Um, I think I there were some things that I feel like weren't as realistic. But
Such as.
so like, why would this museum guy have all these artifacts just in his
Oh
house?
yeah.
Why would, why would I'd say something I wanted to bring up. I apparently there was a Goonies oath that got cut and it's it's a kind of a it's cute. It's kind of this like it's like a little friendship oath on like what ties them together and what makes you a Goonie. And I kind of felt like I thought they all it was a great group of a great group of boys. It was a really they definitely have a really great relationship, a great friendship. But in terms of like what makes a Goonie, I think that could have been developed a little more. Um,
Yeah.
just like a little bit more, not like overly like annoying. Like we get it, friendship, but just like a little bit
Yeah.
more like what
Friendship is magic, whatever.
because they're they're called the Goonies because they live in the Goondocks. Okay, but like but later like Andy even says like she says something like I'm not a Goonie, like I can't like, but
I just want to go home.
um. So I
Yeah,
think
yeah, yeah. Multiple times throughout this movie, they say is like never say die. Goonies never say die. It's like okay, is that like your personal motto or is that like actually a thing? Like that, like they say that a couple times throughout the movie, and it just it's never really fleshed out or brought up.
yeah. Um. So is this real? I'm still like I honestly still don't even. I think I want to say I stand by, yeah, the actions of characters, yes. In terms of the sequence of events, I just don't know if I have a yes or no. I kind of want to
Yeah.
say no, but then I'm like, I mean, well, what's your thought? Like, if do you think this real? Could this happen? Um, what's your thought on that?
Well, I definitely agree with you. I think that the actions of the characters are definitely believable. The sequence of events that do take place, I feel like kind of push the envelope a little bit, and I feel like either kind of drew the line between silly and not realistic. Like a perfect example of that would be when they're like banging on all the pipes underneath the country club and just causing all the faucets to like explode or retract into the wall or turn into geysers. I felt like that I don't think that's how plumbing works. So I don't
Yeah.
think that was. I mean, I'm not a plumber. I have no idea if that's a thing. Like, but I don't think banging on a pipe with a wrench is going to cause a toilet to turn into Old Faithful. I don't think that's how that works. So I don't think that there are certain elements of this movie where it's like, yeah, I don't think this is real. I don't think that's going to work. Um,
I think it's just
but
not enough like there are a lot of things that are very real, but there are also a lot of things that I'm like, I mean, yes, this I guess this could happen, but like it doesn't seem likely that this would happen. There's just
yeah.
not enough. Yeah, so okay, yeah, because that's kind of where I stand. I wanted you to go first just because something like last week you made points that really I'm like, huh, interesting. Um,
Yeah. Um. Another thing that like one thing that like for like the characters of like the Fratelli is that didn't really make so much sense to me is why did they let Chunk go on a rant so long of just him talking about random nonsense that he did in the past that had no impact on the situation that they were currently in. It's like, why are they letting him talk about like a spelling test that he cheated on in the third grade? Like this, this is not important to what is currently going on, and I don't understand why they entertained him on that for so long. It made no sense for either their character to listen to this or to not threaten him to say something else. They just sat there and just had a very bored and annoyed expression. It's like, wait, if they're annoyed, why aren't they stopping him? It made no sense as to why they let him carry on for so long.
also some of the characters I'm like, when we think about it, like uh, they're like yeah, the actions are believable, but are like I don't know. I'm just thinking like how realistic is it to have a friend who's a pathological liar? How realistic is it to have a friend that's like an inventor? Like
Yeah,
a lot of these traits are things that you would only find in like books or movies, not
yeah.
necessarily in
It's
real life. Um,
yeah, like the entire friend group, everyone is like a specific like character or stereotype of a person, and like that's their entire personality. Of, I have a friend that doesn't shut up. I have a friend that is a liar and is fat. I have a friend that's an inventor, and I'm the guy who knows all the inside information.
yeah, so I think we're kind of coming to the conclusion of overall this isn't very it's not
It
implausible, it's just not very likely.
it's believable for a fictional setting, but
Yes.
for a real life situation, the amount of elements that takes place for this movie to even get started, um, because the whole movie gets started from the Fratellis breaking out of prison, and I kind of said this in the beginning of how does no one see this in broad daylight? I just think just on that alone, they would have gotten caught. So
Yeah.
I'm saying that the Fratellis in real life they would have been arrested within 5 minutes of coming within 10 feet of that jail because
Yeah.
they were clearly already wanted. They had a wanted poster before this thing already happened, apparently, that they just had in their basement for some reason. They have their own wanted poster. um, the brother was already arrested, and they were within spitting distance of the front door of the prison that the brother was already in when they themselves are already wanted. So I'm going to say that this movie, as fun as it is realistic but unbelievable in certain fantasy elements.
But it's not so I feel like the octopus I think would have been a little too that would have been yeah, like
Much,
much.
yeah.
Cuz technically yes, a group of kids could come across the treasure map. They could I feel like if I at that age if I came across a treasure map with my friends I'd be like or even now I'd be like I'd be down to go looking for this. Like or there's
This is a fun scavenger
there's
hunt.
this I don't remember the name, but there is this like real life like explorer. I think he's still alive. He buried some like money or it's his money or something somewhere they think in the Rocky Mountains and he laid riddles to go find it. And
This
Most
isn't DB Cooper, is it?
no. Well, no, no,
Okay.
no, no. That's very different. No, no.
Okay.
He
Okay. Well, I don't know.
no, no. DB Cooper was just a hijacker. I don't, as far as we know, he wasn't really an explorer. But then again, we don't know anything about DB Cooper. But no, no, no. This guy, I don't remember the name. It was I learned about it on the BuzzFeed Unsolved stuff. Uh, but like he basically like he did this whole thing in a day, so it is definitely doable. And he has all these like riddles, and people have figured out the first. I think definitely the first one, maybe the first two riddles. But of course, it's hard to find. But like that, I'm like, that's something that I'd be like so down to like attempt, because that's the whole point is he wants you to go out and explore nature and like it's about the journey, not the destination.
Yeah, the real treasure is the friends you made along the way.
So I think yes, like kids could come across a treasure map, kids could go looking for it. Um, Technically, yes, like all these things could happen. They just seem a little unbelievable.
Far-fetched.
Yes,
Yeah.
but it is a very fun movie, and it's a great group of. I can't. The thought of this being there being a sequel just seemed like I don't know, because we're seeing it's baby Sean Astin and baby. I kept thinking the whole movie of the scene in Lord of the Rings when he's uh what's it, the fighting the spider
Yeah,
after
Sheila.
it's like paralyzed Frodo. Like it's a like it's a really really well casted group of people. So I'm definitely
Yeah.
the thought of a sequel and they're all being
I'm
adults sounds really fun.
yeah, I'm really curious to see where and how that movie is going to play out.
Mm-hmm.
I'll definitely kind of look into that more. Was there anything else you wanted to add, Sam?
On about the Goonies. Oh,
Just
actually,
in yeah.
well, actually, now I don't think we really talked about Steph that much. I kind of want to give her more credit because
She was kind of there.
she was more.
I
I liked her better than Andy, because Andy in the beginning, like I said, was just the popular girl who's actually very nice, and Steph's like her friend. But
yeah.
then Andy starts freaking out, and I get that. I get she's kind of freaking out. She's freaking out. She's gonna die, and I can't believe I let that loser Troy look down my shirt. Like she was just freaking out, and Steph
Yeah.
kind of had that without saying it. It was kind of that bitch, pull yourself together kind of moment. Like she was that friend.
Yeah.
Like I,
And
yeah,
there were a couple times where she like specifically butted heads with Mouth. Um
yes,
and then like they have like a touching and like it's like your face is kind of pretty when your glasses aren't there to mess it up, and it's like, oh yeah, your face is pretty good too when your mouth isn't there to screw it up. It's like, oh okay, they lovingly hate each other.
yeah. When they all like get out of the cave and their parents are there, Andy runs to her parents, and goes, "Can I take piano lessons?" And you hear them go, "Yeah." Like,
Sure.
I just thought that was so, like I mean that's your takeaway from this whole thing. Like
It's like piano lessons saved my life. I might as well pick it up again.
that'd be like after that Mario Party game where it's like you have scissors strings and you scissors and you cut one and it's either going to send you like eject you or nothing happens. Be like maybe it's
Sure.
okay. It's like one of the
It's been a long
yeah
time since I played a Mario Party
yeah
game.
it's like that it's like after that, like I don't know if Princess Peach was like, I'm gonna learn how to, I don't know, cut something. It was like one of those things that this is not the
I'm
reason.
gonna learn how to cut something.
This isn't like, I just thought that was like funny, like because she was the one that was playing the piano because I guess she took lessons when she was a little kid. But I thought that was just
Yeah.
funny. Like her takeaway of this whole thing was, this is my purpose. I need to learn. I need to
Yeah.
rekindle my love of the piano.
Yeah. No. Most of my experience with Mario Party is me and my friends hating each other afterwards because like Nintendo games are notorious for screwing your friends over, and that's a mechanic that I both love and hate. And so I don't have like the best experience with Nintendo games, mainly because I don't play it that often, and when I do, my friends and I just hate each other
Well, I
afterwards.
just remember we all played one time, and I just remember I'm a little bit competitive, and I remember I
No,
remember
no.
It was the game where you have to like shake the Wii remote because it's like a soda and you have to like get your soda to go the highest. And I was just like, ah! And everyone was like, oh my God. Like, what?
Oh yeah, it's like what the fuck? You weren't like full like barbarian rage, just like you were hulking out, just like ah! It's like Jesus Christ, Sam, calm down.
When I'm capable of winning, like I have the skills to win, I go full force. If it's something that I
Yeah,
can't, I know I'm not gonna win, then I tend to not put as much effort in.
I just remember when we played. This was
Oh
at
God.
your
I
graduation party,
know.
and we played Disney Trivial Pursuit, and how competitive you are with that because you're a huge like Disney like fanatic. You're not even a fan. You're a fanatic. Disney is your religion, and Disneyland is your church. Um, so when we played that, you were so competitive to the point where it's like, all right, I need to beat you just to put you in your place. And I did, and I'm never going to let you live that down. I beat you at Disney Trivia. I beat you in your own house.
Okay. This was the thing. My friends told me later that I don't know if they made this up, but I assume they didn't. But they told me later that because I don't know, I walked away for a split second, and apparently you told them just to give me one that give me a question that like just end it because I'm not gonna stop.
Yeah.
Um, and ironically, not because of that, but that night I went out with them, got very drunk, and the next morning was super hungover. And my mom comes in, and I'm like, I shouldn't have kept going with Disney Trivial Pursuit. My mom's like, that's what you have to say? Like, it's because the reason is it finally occurred to me we stopped playing that game, and it was not because I was too competitive. It's because about 30 years of information on Disney Trivial Pursuit are movies that I didn't really watch. They were not in like, I don't know, I did not grow up with a lot of those. Like, I didn't really grow up with Sword in the Stone or 101 Dalmatians. I watched earlier stuff and later stuff.
For the people listening at home, this was before Disney
This
Plus.
was before Disney Plus, and I hadn't seen some of the I'd seen some of them, but just I didn't know them that well, and so we stopped because there was just like again most of the information were movies that we didn't own and didn't watch, so we don't know the answers to. But the thing
Yeah.
was, I had also noticed we were playing and there were questions that people assumed I wouldn't know because they're like, oh, she's not going to know this. I'm like, well, what's the question? They're like, oh, who wrote Peter Pan? I'm like, oh, J.M. Barrie. And they're like, oh, like there were the questions
What?
that they didn't expect me to know that I do, and then the ones that I should have known that I didn't. But yes, I know that was a painful day. Regardless,
Yeah.
we are keep forgetting to do this. We are follow us on Facebook and Instagram at the Movie Reel Podcast. Like and subscribe. Follow us. Make comments. Or on the Facebook page if you want. Make suggestions for movies you want us to do. We'll happily take suggestions. And
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
We're also on Facebook and YouTube, Spotify. Share, comment, literally anywhere and everywhere. Just spread this around, and just have fun listening to us. We enjoy hearing your guys' comments and recommendations on what to watch.
we're going to be sticking the next couple of months. It's going to be anything that we feel is a good like summer movie, whether it's like movies like this one or Lost Boys, that's kind of like an adventure or thriller, or vacation, or monster movies, anything that we feel is a good
Yeah.
summer movie. That's what we'll be covering.
Or anything that helps us celebrate our Independence Day.
Ah, yes.
Yes.
By kidnapping the president and stealing the Declaration of Independence.
Okay, not the route I was going for, but all right.
Okay, I'm Samantha Tomlinson.
And I'm Kevin Tracy.